Welcome, everyone. Today, we're diving into an ancient mystery hidden within the pages of Genesis, a tale that has echoed through time yet left much unsaid. The title, The Secret Wife of Cain and Adam and Eve's Forgotten Daughters, Untold Bible Mysteries, points us toward figures who existed on the fringes of this famous story, unnamed and silent, yet integral to the survival and legacy of humanity. Most of us know the story of Cain and Abel, the first brothers. It's a tale of rivalry, jealousy, and tragedy. The moment when humanity first tasted the bitterness of fratricide. Cain, burdened by his own anger, takes his brother's life, becoming the world's first murderer. As punishment, he's marked and cast out, wandering the earth with a mark of shame. But what if there was more to this story? What if Cain was not alone in his exile? And what if there were others, silent figures, who shared his burden and continued humanity's story alongside him? We often overlook the women of these early chapters, the daughters of Adam and Eve, who lived in the shadows of history, unnamed yet present. They were the ones who bore children, built families, and kept life going amidst the turmoil. Among them, Cain's wife stands out, a mysterious woman whose presence is implied but rarely discussed. Who was she? Where did she come from? And what role did she play in Cain's search for redemption and a second chance? In our journey today, we'll explore Cain not only as the bearer of sin, but as a reflection of the human experience, a symbol of our struggles, failures, and hopes for forgiveness. But perhaps even more intriguing are the forgotten daughters of Adam and Eve, women who, though absent from most retellings, played a crucial part in shaping humanity's story. Their strength, resilience, and quiet endurance allowed life to flourish even in the wake of such tragedy. So, as we embark on this exploration, we invite you to see beyond the familiar tale and to look into the hidden lives of those who stood alongside Cain. These are the untold stories of forgotten daughters and silent wives, figures whose lives remind us of resilience, hope, and the uncelebrated power of those who carry the weight of history in silence. Now that we've set the stage, let's look closer at Cain himself. We often remember him simply as the world's first murderer, the brother who succumbed to jealousy and took Abel's life. But there's a complexity to Cain's character that invites us to see him as more than just a villain. Cain's story touches on universal themes that echo through every human heart: the struggle with temptation, the burden of guilt, and the desire for redemption. Cain's journey begins with a moment of anger, an emotion all of us can relate to. Imagine his frustration, his offering rejected by God, while his brother Abel's offering is accepted. In that moment, Cain must have felt a pang of inadequacy, a sense of being overshadowed, and perhaps even a cry for approval. But instead of seeking guidance, his anger grew, transforming into something darker. When God spoke to Cain after his offering was rejected, he didn't condemn him outright. Instead, God gave Cain a choice, a chance to master his emotions and avoid sin. "If you do well, will you not be accepted?" God asked. "And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is for you, but you must rule over it." In this moment, God is not merely warning Cain. He is offering a path to redemption, a way out of his anger. But, tragically, Cain doesn't heed the warning. After taking Abel's life, Cain is confronted by God. In an interaction both poignant and haunting, God doesn't simply punish Cain. Instead, he marks him, a symbol of both justice and mercy. This mark of Cain has been interpreted in countless ways, but at its core, it represents a paradox. Though Cain must live with the consequences of his actions, he is also protected by God, kept from harm by divine decree. What does this tell us about Cain? He is more than just the archetype of sin. He is also a mirror reflecting the struggles within each of us. We, too, face moments where anger, jealousy, or frustration tempt us to act against our better nature. And like Cain, we are often given choices, paths that can lead us either toward grace or further into darkness. Cain's story is, in essence, a cautionary tale about the consequences of unbridled emotion. But it also serves as a reminder that even in our failures, there exists the possibility of mercy. The mark of Cain serves as a reminder that while we must live with our choices, we are not beyond redemption. Though Cain became a wanderer, a man marked and set apart, he was not abandoned by God. This complex interplay between justice and mercy, punishment and protection, makes Cain not just a figure of sin, but a symbol of humanity's inner conflict. So, as we reflect on Cain's story, we must ask ourselves, is he truly the villain we make him out to be? Or is he a reflection of the moral struggles each of us faces? And what does it mean that God still protected him, even after such a grievous act? Perhaps, in understanding Cain's story, we also come to understand a little more about our own paths, the battles we face, and the choices that define us. As we follow Cain's journey into exile, marked by his sin but shielded by God's protection, we encounter a question that often lingers in the background of this story. Who were the silent figures alongside him? The Bible tells us that Cain had a wife, but her name is never mentioned, her story never told. She remains a mystery, one of the many women in early biblical history who played a role yet remained in the shadows. And then there are the other daughters of Adam and Eve, unspoken figures who sustained humanity's earliest generations. These women, though unnamed, were essential to the survival and growth of the human family. In many ancient cultures, women's contributions often went unrecorded, and the Bible reflects this cultural context. Yet their presence is implicit. These daughters of Eve, often called forgotten, were the ones who carried on the lineage, who endured the hardships of early human life, who built families and communities in the aftermath of Cain's tragedy. Their lives may not have been filled with the dramatic actions we see in Cain's story, but their quiet strength is woven into the very fabric of humanity's survival. Imagine for a moment the emotional toll on Cain's wife, a woman who chose to stand by a man marked by both sin and shame. She became his partner, not just in marriage but in exile, in rebuilding, in bearing the weight of his past while helping him look toward the future. This was no small act. To be with Cain was to share in his burdens, to live with the knowledge of his crime, and to bear the social stigma attached to it. In choosing to be with him, she demonstrated a resilience and loyalty that speaks to the depth of her character, even though her name is lost to history. Some ancient texts outside the Bible offer additional perspectives. In certain apocryphal writings, Cain's wife is given a name, often called Awan, or sometimes identified as Lilith in later folklore, although the details vary widely. Another figure associated with Cain in some legends is called Kalima, imagined as a symbol of both companionship and quiet strength. While these names are not found in the canonical text, they offer glimpses into how generations have sought to fill the gaps in her story, to give voice to the silent partner who walked beside Cain. But it wasn't just Cain's wife who played an essential role in sustaining humanity. The other daughters of Adam and Eve, too, bore the heavy responsibility of continuing the human race, building family bonds, and nurturing a fledgling society. They would have been the silent nurturers, the ones who, behind the scenes, ensured that life continued, even as humanity's first family bore the scars of Cain's actions. These women represent a theme that appears repeatedly in biblical history: the quiet, often unnoticed resilience of women who bore the weight of hardship while carrying forward the hope of a new generation. Just as Sarah would later become the mother of nations, just as Ruth would one day exemplify loyalty and kindness, these forgotten daughters set a precedent. Their lives, though hidden, were filled with purpose, perseverance, and quiet strength. It's easy to focus solely on Cain's struggle, his exile, his punishment, and his mark. But what about the legacy he left behind through his children? What about the culture, the values, and the stories that his wife and other women passed down to future generations? Cain's family would have needed more than just survival. They needed a sense of identity, values to guide them, and traditions to hold them together. And it was the women, often the carriers of culture in ancient societies, who likely passed these down. So what does this say about the role of these forgotten women in Cain's journey? They were the quiet yet unyielding force that allowed Cain to attempt redemption, to rebuild, to found a family, and eventually a city. They were the ones who nurtured life in the shadow of a tragic past. In standing beside Cain, in bearing his children, in building homes, they served as the foundation upon which humanity's future would rest. These silent figures remind us that strength is not always loud or visible. Sometimes, it resides in the quiet, steadfast endurance of those who stand beside us, even when the world has cast us aside. This notion of the silent resilience of women appears throughout Scripture. Time and again, we see women who bear burdens without recognition, who shape the course of history from behind the scenes. Like the mothers of Israel, who endured oppression in Egypt yet continued to bear children with hope. The forgotten daughters of Adam and Eve held onto the thread of humanity's survival. Their faithfulness and endurance became the unspoken pillars of the early human family. As we reflect on these forgotten daughters and Cain's wife, let's consider the legacy of silence and strength they left behind. Their stories may be hidden, their names lost, but their impact endures. Through their lives, we are reminded that the greatest contributions are often made in the quiet moments, in the unnoticed acts of faith, resilience, and love. In many ways, they are a reflection of the silent yet powerful figures in all of our lives, those who stand by us, support us, and carry us forward, even when the world turns its back. As Cain's story unfolds, we find him cast out from his family, bearing the weight of his sin and marked by God's protection. He becomes a wanderer, a man without a home, sentenced to live with the guilt of his actions. Yet, despite his past, Cain begins to build something new. He starts a family, and with his wife by his side, he embarks on a journey of redemption by creating the first human settlement, a city he names after his son Enoch. This city, Enoch, represents far more than just a place to live. It's a testament to Cain's struggle to create meaning and stability in the wake of his exile. In founding a city, Cain attempts to carve out a new identity, one that could perhaps overshadow the mark of his sin. This act of creation becomes his way of seeking redemption, not only for himself, but for his descendants, a way to prove that he can still contribute something meaningful to the world. Imagine the courage and resolve it must have taken for Cain to embark on this endeavor. He was a man marked by the world's first great tragedy, carrying the memory of his brother's blood and his family's heartbreak. And yet, he did not resign himself to despair or isolation. Instead, he chose to create, to build, to invest in a future for his children. In many ways, the city of Enoch was Cain's attempt at reconciliation, a symbol of his desire to leave a different legacy, one that might one day be remembered for more than just his sin. Building this city was not something Cain did alone. His family, especially the women, his wife, and the other women in his life, would have been crucial to this project. They would have been the ones to care for the children, maintain the home, and sustain the family's daily life, allowing Cain the freedom to focus on establishing the physical and social structures of a new community. Their support, though unspoken in the text, would have been indispensable in creating this early society. The city of Enoch also represents the beginnings of human civilization, a step away from the simple life Cain had known as a farmer, cultivating the land. This transition symbolizes humanity's own movement from solitary existence toward community. In founding a city, Cain was creating a space where people could come together, share resources, and support one another. He was, in a sense, building the first structured society, a place where people could live in harmony, with laws, traditions, and a shared purpose. Yet, the city was also a constant reminder of his past. Every stone, every wall, every home in Enoch bore the weight of Cain's history. As much as it was a place of new beginnings, it was also a testament to the consequences of his actions. In many ways, Cain's struggle for redemption was not a single moment, but an ongoing journey. Each day, as he worked to build the city, he was also working to reconcile with his own past, to find peace with the man he had become. The city of Enoch, therefore, is a complex symbol. It represents both Cain's exile and his attempt to rebuild, his punishment, and his path to redemption. It's a reminder that even those who carry the heaviest burdens are capable of creating something meaningful. And it shows us that redemption is not always a dramatic single act. Sometimes, it is a slow, gradual process, built one stone at a time, one day at a time. In this struggle for redemption, Cain's family, especially the silent women around him, played an essential role. They gave him the stability he needed to build something greater than himself, to rise above his past, and to attempt a new legacy. Their support enabled him to channel his remorse and pain into an act of creation, turning his exile into an opportunity to contribute something lasting to the world. As we reflect on this part of Cain's journey, we are reminded that our past does not have to define our future. Like Cain, each of us has the power to create, to build, and to strive for a legacy that transcends our mistakes. The city of Enoch stands as a testament to the idea that redemption is possible, even for those who have walked the darkest paths. It reminds us that the struggle for a new beginning is worth the effort, and that, with the support of those around us, we can turn even the most broken pieces of our lives into something beautiful. In the end, the city of Enoch was more than just a place. It was Cain's attempt to rewrite his story, to provide a home for his family, and to offer a foundation for future generations. Through his efforts, Cain left behind more than just a mark of sin. He left a symbol of resilience, a reminder that no matter our past, there is always a way forward. As we've journeyed through Cain's story, one thing has become clear: his path to redemption, his ability to build a city, and his capacity to create a new life were not feats he accomplished alone. In the shadows of his story are the women who stood by him, women who bore the quiet strength that sustained his journey. Though unnamed and often overlooked, these women, Cain's wife, his daughters, and the other female figures in his life, played roles that were just as vital, if not more so, in carrying forward the legacy of humanity. Throughout history, women have often been the silent bearers of hope, resilience, and continuity. In Cain's life, his wife became a partner in exile, a mother to his children, and a stabilizing force as he sought to rebuild from the ashes of his past. Though her name remains unspoken in the biblical text, her influence is undeniable. She became the steady presence that allowed Cain to focus on his redemptive efforts, embodying the strength and loyalty that defined the role of women in early humanity. Imagine the weight of her life, choosing to remain with a man marked by both God and his own choices, living under the shadow of his past actions. She would have shared his burden, carried his shame in her own way, and yet she persisted. She raised his children, supported his endeavors, and helped to establish the first community. Her life was a testament to silent endurance, to the power of remaining steadfast, even when the path forward was unclear. This silent resilience is a theme that resonates across the Bible. Women like Sarah, who bore the promise of a nation within her, Ruth, who exemplified loyalty through selfless devotion, and Mary, who bore the weight of divine promise. These women all carried the silent strength that sustained and shaped their families, their communities, and their people. Cain's wife, though lesser known, is part of this legacy. She stands as an archetype of resilience, a figure who contributed to humanity's future, even as her own story remained untold. And it wasn't only Cain's wife. The other daughters of Adam and Eve, who likely shared in this quiet legacy, were essential to the continuation of humanity. These forgotten daughters were the nurturers, the bearers of new life, the caretakers of a young and fragile world. They endured hardships without recognition, kept their families together, and preserved the cultural foundations of early human life. Their sacrifices, though unrecorded, were crucial to the survival and growth of the human family. In Cain's journey, these women served as pillars of hope. While he may have borne the mark of sin, they bore the legacy of perseverance. Their lives speak to the power of faithfulness to their families, to the continuation of humanity, and to the belief that life could still thrive, even in the aftermath of tragedy. They became symbols of continuity, demonstrating that even in times of despair, there remains the possibility of renewal. This silent strength is a quality that transcends time. It reminds us of the countless women throughout history who have carried burdens quietly, supporting those around them without fanfare or recognition. From mothers and wives to sisters and daughters, women have often been the bearers of resilience, holding onto hope when all seemed lost. Cain's wife and the other forgotten daughters of Adam and Eve were the earliest examples of this legacy, a lineage of silent heroes whose contributions allowed humanity to survive and flourish. In many ways, these women reflect the story of humanity itself. They remind us that true strength is often quiet, that resilience does not always need a voice, and that hope can be carried even in the absence of recognition. Their presence in Cain's life symbolizes the possibility of redemption, not through grand gestures, but through steady, unwavering faith in the future. So, as we reflect on the silent roles these women played, we are invited to consider the silent figures in our own lives, those who support us, who stand by us in our struggles, who offer us strength without seeking acknowledgement. These individuals, like the forgotten daughters of Adam and Eve, are the bearers of hope in our world, the ones who quietly keep the world turning and hold families and communities together. Through Cain's wife and these forgotten daughters, we see a deeper layer of his journey, a reminder that redemption is not a solitary act, but a communal one. It is built on the shoulders of those who support, nurture, and believe in second chances. In the end, these women are more than just silent figures in Cain's story. They are the heartbeat of his redemption, the quiet force that allowed him to leave a legacy beyond his sin. As we near the end of this journey through the story of Cain and the silent figures around him, it becomes clear that this narrative is more than just an ancient tale of sin and consequence. Cain, his wife, and the forgotten daughters of Adam and Eve together represent something much larger. They are symbols of the human experience itself, embodying themes of failure, redemption, resilience, and the often overlooked contributions that shape our lives. Cain's story is one of deep moral conflict. In his journey, we see the full spectrum of human emotions, the anger, jealousy, and regret that can drive any of us to dark places. But in his exile and struggle to create something meaningful, we also find the hope that redemption is possible, even for those who have stumbled. Cain becomes a symbol of humanity's own dual nature, of our capacity for both sin and growth, for mistakes and second chances. And what of his wife and the forgotten women who accompanied him on this journey? Their silent endurance, their unrecognized strength, serves as a reminder of the countless unsung heroes throughout history who have shaped the world in quiet, unseen ways. These women, though not named in the biblical text, were vital to humanity's survival and progress. They represent the power of resilience, the ability to nurture life and hope even in the most challenging of circumstances. Together, Cain and these forgotten figures paint a picture of the human condition. His journey speaks to our own struggles with guilt and the longing to rewrite our stories, while the women around him remind us that strength is often quiet, that real power can be found in persistence, and that the foundations of our lives are often built by those who remain in the background. In Cain's founding of the city of Enoch, we see humanity's desire to create a legacy that outlives our failings. The city became a symbol of his attempt to move beyond his past, to establish something that might serve future generations. It was an act of hope, an acknowledgement that life, even with all its scars, can still be filled with purpose. And standing beside him in this effort were the women who supported and sustained him, the silent yet indispensable partners in his journey. This story invites us to look at our own lives and consider the roles we play and the roles of those who support us, often without acknowledgement. It asks us to see the value in second chances, to recognize the strength of those who lift us up when we fall, and to appreciate the quiet forces that hold our families and communities together. Cain and the forgotten figures around him embody the truth that redemption is rarely achieved alone. It is a communal effort, a journey taken with the help of those who believe in us, even when the world may not. In a way, Cain and these silent figures are archetypes of every human story. We each carry moments of failure, regret, and the desire for renewal. We each have people in our lives, family, friends, mentors, who stand by us quietly, supporting our growth and helping us navigate our challenges. This story encourages us to honor these roles, to see the value in resilience, and to recognize that redemption is a path we walk together. In the end, Cain is more than just the world's first sinner. He is a symbol of humanity's capacity for change, of the courage it takes to build something meaningful despite our past. And his wife, along with the forgotten daughters of Adam and Eve, remind us of the silent, enduring strength that sustains us, the quiet hope that allows us to move forward, even when the journey is hard. As we close this reflection, we're left with a powerful message, that our lives are shaped not only by our actions, but by the quiet presence of those who walk beside us. Cain's journey, and the lives of those who supported him, reveal the importance of community, resilience, and the belief that even the most broken among us can contribute something meaningful to the world. As we conclude this journey through the story of Cain and the forgotten figures who shaped his path, we're left with a profound invitation to look beyond the surface of ancient stories and consider the layers of humanity embedded within them. This tale of Cain and his silent companions speaks to universal truths that resonate through time, inviting us to reflect on the dynamics of our own lives, our own choices, and the people who walk with us on our paths. The story of Cain is more than a tale of punishment or sin. It is a reminder of the complex journey each of us undertakes. Like Cain, we each carry burdens, mistakes, regrets, moments we wish we could undo. And like Cain, we have the opportunity to rebuild, to create, and to seek a form of redemption, even if our paths are not easy. The city of Enoch stands as a testament to the idea that, despite our past, we can contribute something of value, something that might outlast us and serve future generations. But perhaps the most compelling message of this story lies in the silent figures, the women who bore the legacy of resilience, the forgotten daughters who quietly carried humanity forward. They remind us that true strength often goes unnoticed, that the foundations of our lives are built on the dedication and sacrifices of those who stand in the background. These figures invite us to honor the silent heroes in our lives, those who support, nurture, and sustain us, even when their contributions are uncelebrated. So, as we close, I invite you to consider, who are the silent figures in your life? Who are the people who have supported you, believed in you, and helped you carry your burdens? How can we honor them? And how can we, in turn, become that quiet strength for others? This story encourages us to value second chances, to look for redemption not only in grand gestures, but in small, everyday acts of kindness, resilience, and hope. It reminds us that the journey of rebuilding is one we seldom walk alone. We are shaped by those who support us, often unseen, and by the love and loyalty they offer in times of trial. In the end, the tale of Cain and the forgotten daughters speaks to the timeless truth that redemption, resilience, and hope are communal efforts. We are never truly alone in our struggles, and within each of us lies the capacity to both seek and offer redemption. May we carry this lesson forward, honoring the silent figures in our lives and, in our own ways, becoming sources of quiet strength for those who walk beside us. Thank you for joining this reflection on Cain's journey and the forgotten voices that sustained him. Let's carry forward the lessons of resilience, silent strength, and the power of second chances, not only in our lives, but in the lives of those we touch.